I didn't know a whole lot about Dead Ahead Zombie Warfare when I started playing. I saw it go up on PSN, and the first two things that caught my attention were the price and the number of microtransactions. Looking at the microtransactions, it seemed more like a phone game, and in fact it is available on mobile for free. I decided to play both the Vita and mobile versions to see how they compare. My biggest worry was that the Vita version would be an overpriced port of the mobile version, with exploitative microtransactions. I'm happy to say that the Vita version is far better balanced than the mobile version, and it's a fun and addictive game, but it doesn't really justify the price and all those microtransactions. The plot is pretty thin. It's a zombie apocalypse and you need to make your way to safety. It's sort of a tower defense and tower offense game in one. The objective of each level is to send your men out to break the barrier blocking the way of your bus, and also to protect your bus from attacking zombies. The loop of sending your men out to attack and at the same time protecting your bus is a lot of fun. It's simple and easy to grasp gameplay, but there's also strategy and timing to each level, where you want to make sure your units leave the bus at just the right time so they repel incoming zombies, but aren't on their own taking on too many zombies at once. You have two gauges that fill up as you play. As the blue gauge builds up, you can summon new fighters from your bus. For example, melee fighters with axes or spades, or units with handguns, shotguns or machine guns. The red gauge lets you summon temporary attack or healing items, like an exploding barrel falling out of the sky to damage zombies, or a healing item that replenishes the health of any of your fighters in the circle. Your units and abilities can all be leveled up, but for the human units, you need to collect items that level up certain stats, and once you have a full set, you can then level up the unit. You can also level up your bus so it's got more armor and the machine gunner at the top does more damage. The machine gunner gives you a bit of protection and can take down some of the weaker zombies, but can't protect the bus on his own. As you complete levels, you also level up your player level. All of this leveling up requires a lot of gold and items you collect through the levels. At first, it's all pretty straightforward. Chapter 1 is made up of 16 stages and gold is plentiful for leveling up and unlocking new fighters. But the game does get a lot tougher, and so leveling up your preferred classes of fighters is essential, but with good leveling items scarce, this becomes harder and harder. You can only level up your units as your player level goes up, but by the time you get to Chapter 5, it becomes a real grind to increase your player level, and at the same time the difficulty gets super tough. I hit a wall in Chapter 6 and stopped playing. The time required to gain a player level to then level up my units was too much, and the game was less fun when the levels were so difficult that I couldn't progress, without spending a lot of time going back to grind on the earlier levels for player points. This is where the microtransactions come in. You can buy new units, crates of gold or new items if you want. I found gold was plentiful enough to not be a big issue, but it was the upgrade items that I really needed. It did feel like I would have an easier time if I just spent money on new crates, because I wasn't getting many of the good upgrade items by playing normally. You earn stars for each stage you finish based on the bus's health. For most stages you need to have 100% health to earn the 3 stars, and you need to earn stars to unlock the next chapter. Earning all the stars in a chapter is pretty tough, because each chapter has 2 nightmare challenge stages. For Chapter 1, I needed to come back and play them later after I had finished most of Chapter 3, when my units were sufficiently leveled up. Getting all the stars took a lot of effort, and the reward is a regular crate which didn't even have any special items. There aren't even trophies for the effort of 100%ing the game. This was kind of disappointing, because the reward definitely doesn't justify the time and effort for completing every level of the game. There's a lot of variety to the zombies. There are fast zombie dogs, exploding zombies, armored zombies, big bosses, and there are even infected humans. Interestingly, the bad humans would fight the zombies too, which was helpful in distracting them. When one of your units die, they'll also turn into a zombie after a few seconds of being dead. It's actually pretty impressive all the different types of zombies, and how imaginative the devs have been with coming up with them all. The bosses were also really interesting. One of the bosses you had to face was a bus with enemy humans, and as your units die and the other enemy humans die, they turn into zombies which then attack both sides. It was quite a cool level to play through. From Chapter 4, the game also introduces a new mechanic where you need to finish the level fast or a huge wave of zombies appear. This adds a lot of difficulty, but in a good way. It added tension to the level. One big problem with the game is its performance on Vita. The game stutters and freezes constantly every few seconds. It did impact my game a few times because during those freezes, the game doesn't recognize your button presses, and mistiming a button press can mean you miss out on the 3 stars on a level. I hope it can eventually be patched because it's hard to ignore and it does spoil the gameplay. Now, in terms of the mobile version, that has a cooldown timer, which means after you play some levels, you have to wait to play more. The Vita version didn't have this, thankfully. The mobile version is a lot harder too, and has far more pricier microtransactions. Given you're paying so much upfront for the Vita version, it makes sense that the timer is removed, and that the game is better balanced in terms of difficulty. Chapter 1 was far more manageable on Vita compared to the mobile version. The Vita version also can be controlled by touch or with buttons. This was actually very useful, and the flexibility of controls meant that I was using both at the same time, whichever was faster and more comfortable for each action. But this all comes at the expense of £16 or around $20, compared to the mobile version being free. So overall, the game has problems. The difficulty forces you to grind or pay to progress faster, the game has performance issues, and there isn't a lot of incentive to actually finish the really hard levels. But having said this, it's still a fun game to pass some time, and it's very addictive. It can get a bit repetitive, and I did hit a wall in terms of time needed to grind due to difficulty, but the challenge kept me interested enough to get through nearly all of the game. I've had a good time playing it, but I got a review code from the devs. I don't think I would spend £16 on it. When the game goes on sale, and if it gets a patch for the freezing, I think it's worth playing and you can have a lot of fun with it. But it is hard to recommend at the current price. If you're curious, give it a go on mobile and see what it's like. So guys, are you thinking to pick up Dead Ahead Zombie Warfare? And if you've already played it, what did you think of it? Leave a comment below, and as always, thanks for watching.